Sometimes members of communities whose languages are undergoing shift or loss feel a need to hold on to tradition. Sometimes this desire can lead to ideas about language that might not help preserve the language. One of these ideas is that the language must remain pure from outside influence. For example, one community believed that the way their language was written down by a missionary in the 1800s who was working on a dictionary represented the pure traditional language. Several generations since then had spoken the language fluently. During this time, the language had changed a bit. It had contracted words, it had shortened words, it had added words. These same processes occur in most languages and occur in English too. For example, we say can't instead of cannot, or tux instead of tuxedo. Even though most speakers no longer spoke the language the way the missionary in the 1800s had written it down in the dictionary, the community still held up that dictionary as an example of the pure language. Along with the focus on language as historical rather than changing and living, came a focus on not mixing the language with English. When younger speakers tried to speak the language as they had heard it from their relatives or friends, or would mix what language they did know with English, many teachers would correct them, or worse, shame them for not speaking the real language. They would say things like, the language must remain pure and don't mix in English. This led younger speakers to speak less or to stop trying to learn altogether. Another idea that some community members have is that there is one correct form of the language, especially in communities where there are differences in dialect or regional variation. This idea can cause some speakers to feel that their way of speaking, or the way their grandparents said it, is not correct. In the same community, as mentioned before, this led fluent elders to wonder whether they really knew the language. This led them not to speak in public. These elders, who can provide such a wealth of language knowledge to younger speakers, spoke less or not at all. These ideas are not uncommon in communities feeling the pressure of language loss. Sometimes these ideas reflect the influence of the dominant or colonizing culture. For example, in the US, there's long been a focus on teaching correct grammar in school, devaluing groups whose speech is non standard, or valuing one language above others and pushing out groups who are bilingual and might engage in language mixing. Most Native American language communities have traditionally spoken more than one languages, and those languages have usually influenced each other, sharing words and changing over time in generations. This type of change means a language is alive rather than being lost. By accidentally adopting some ideas imposed by the colonizing culture, community members who may be trying to hold on to their culture, their language, their past, may unintentionally contribute to its loss. In the same communities, though, you can often hear elders and teachers say things like, I don't care if it isn't perfect. I don't care if it's mixed with English. If they speak the language, I'm happy to hear it. Valuing variety in language and valuing beginning learners' speech can encourage younger speakers to try and elders to share their language, and can help to keep the language alive in the present. We invite you to participate in this conversation. Please use the comments section below to respond to the question posted or to offer additional perspectives.